36mm, 42, 44, 46. All 4 sizes of the new Superocean watches from Breitling. 36, 42, 44, 46 Superoceans on an 18cm wrist. That's just over 7 inches or 5.8 times 10 to the negative 18 parsecs. Only in the past couple years have I become a Breitling fan. I think it started when I reviewed a 44mm Superocean of the previous generation, and then I bought a 42mm reference, and I also reviewed all 3 sizes of the newest Navitimer. You all probably know a lot more about the brand than I do. I'm still learning. And if you do know, then you might recognize that an entirely new design for the Superocean watches is a big deal. Superoceans have been around for a long time, and even though the designs have changed over the past decade, I'd say those recent tweaks weren't full redesigns but more like updates. Until this summer, 2022, Breitling has a completely new look for its popular dive watch. It's so different that honestly it's like an entirely new watch, only the name is the same. And with any big change, some people love it and some people don't, because the fuel that powers the internet is not electricity, but rage at trivial things. Now, rage is too strong a word. In fact, from my unscientific research on Instagram, a lot of people seem to like these new Superoceans, and those people who don't, they're just slightly annoyed, so I'd call that a success. Some facts. For the first time, all sizes of the Superocean have the same water resistance, 300 meters. Previously, the water resistance started at 200 meters with the 36mm watch and went up with each size, and so did the thickness, significantly. But these watches are much thinner. The 36mm watch is 12.2 millimeters thick and 42 millimeters long. The 42mm watch is 12.5 millimeters thick and 48 millimeters long. The 44mm watch is 12.6 millimeters thick and 50 millimeters long. And the 46mm watch is 13.2 millimeters thick and 52 millimeters long. For comparison, the previous 46mm Superocean was 16.85 millimeters thick, so we're seeing a reduction in thickness of nearly 4 millimeters. But if you really need that previous 2,000 meters of water resistance, well, you're wrong. The cases are not only slimmer but much more refined. The lugs are elegant, brushed with polished bevels running along their edges and across the top of the case. The case sides are brushed, that's also new. I don't like to talk in terms of absolutes, but I don't think you can argue with the fact that these new cases are absolutely better than the previous Superocean watches. I'm not going to list all the weights of these watches, but thankfully Breitling has most of them listed on its website. Another big improvement, I think, is that the Superocean watches are finally using ceramic bezel inserts. It's a good move. I'm not sure anyone can argue with that, but maybe you don't like the look. The material, though, is going to hold up much better than the previous steel bezels. I keep referring to the previous Superocean watches because the official word from Breitling is that these new watches are indeed replacing the older standard Superocean watches. The heritage Superocean line isn't going anywhere, but the sporty Superocean with the big numerals, when those are gone, they're gone, and they're already gone from the website. Another inarguable improvement is in the clasp for both the bracelet and the rubber strap. There's an adjustment system. Hell f***ing yes. There's a button on the inside of the clasp that allows you to adjust the length of the bracelet or the strap. It gives you a range of up to 15 millimeters, which is a serious amount. The system ratchets, which means you can reduce the length without even taking the watch off. The clasp is relatively thin for having this feature. Now, this is not my favorite adjustment system. That still belongs to the one used by IWC, Lange, and Glashütte Original, but this one, I like it a lot. Another change which many of you insufferable collectors will like is that there's no date complication. You finally got your dumb wish. Previously, only the 46mm Superocean did not have a date. Now all sizes do. Or don't. Now none sizes do? I'd be curious to hear what normies think about this. There are a lot of watch buyers who see a date complication as an important feature and might not buy an expensive watch that's missing a vital function. Even I use dates on my watches. I might pretend to be a collector, but I actually use my watches to tell time. Shh, don't tell anyone. And the other changes to the Superocean watches are a little more controversial. Let's start with the most obvious bad news first. The prices have gone up. The 36mm watch is $4,600 on a strap and $4,800 on a bracelet. The 42mm watch is $4,650 on a strap and $4,850 on a bracelet. The 44mm is $4,700 on a strap and $4,900 on a bracelet. And the 46mm watch is $4,750 on a strap and $4,950 on a bracelet. All the watches use the same movement as the previous generation Superocean watches. It's a Breitling B17, which is a COSC certified ETA or Solida movement. I know, you want in-house for this price. I hear you, and I'm not trying to defend Breitling's decision. But it is worth asking yourself why you want an in-house movement. The only advantage would theoretically be a longer power reserve. If you need more than 40 hours, look elsewhere. I've talked to people who say they want in-house movements and more expensive components because they want to know that the watch was more expensive to produce. Honestly, that's stupid. If you're looking for a smaller profit margin or a better deal, stay away from watches. This hobby is not for logical spending. You're better off with Bitcoin, or wait, well, maybe. And of course, the biggest and most obvious change is the design of these watches. The new collection takes a lot of inspiration from a dive chronograph that Breitling produced in the 60s and 70s. It was known as the slow motion because it didn't have a central seconds hand. Hours, minutes, and a minute chronograph counter. That's where this wide chapter ring comes from, and that's why this minute hand kind of looks like a seconds hand. I wasn't sure about this design. It's bold, I like bold, but could this be a daily watch? Obviously that's gonna depend on your style. But I think the black especially could be a great daily watch for someone without a collection. For people with a collection, you gotta go for the colors. The turquoise 44mm, the orange Kelly Slater edition in 42mm, and the 36 has both of these bright colors with white bezels. One complaint I've heard from people is about that minutes hand. It does kind of look like a seconds hand on other watches like Doxa's. I agree, it's weird. But wearing this watch, I have no problem reading it as a minute hand. It's highly legible. My only quibble about the handset is that the seconds hand doesn't have a counterbalance. It just starts at the central axis, which makes it look a little unbalanced to me. These all wear terrifically on my 7-inch wrist. The 36mm I just wouldn't wear. I have a couple 36mm watches that I love, but they're mostly dial. With a diving bezel and this wide chapter ring, the Superocean just looks too small on me. But if I see someone with a 7-inch wrist wearing a 36mm Superocean, I will 100% become their new friend. The other sizes for me, heck yeah. The 44 is my favorite. 44mm wide and 12.6mm thick, it feels incredibly thin at those proportions. And it feels so much lighter than the previous 44. That's because it is lighter and also the lower center of gravity, I think. And again, I think the chapter ring makes all of these look a little smaller, so if you have a similar size wrist, try the 44. Aside from being bigger, one additional differentiator in the 46mm watch is that it has a bezel locking mechanism. This thing on the left side of the case is actually a sliding button that allows the wearer to lock and unlock the bidirectional, not unidirectional bezel. This specific 46mm piece is actually a prototype and the locking mechanism is not working on it, so I can't tell you how it feels. All the other references have a 120-click bezel, and I think the 46 has a 60-click bezel. One disappointing change for me is that the bracelet now has polished center links. It goes with the more luxurious and shiny look of these new watches, but I just prefer a brush bracelet. But it does add to how damn pretty these watches are. They are sharp, I think. A totally different direction for the Superocean watches. These is fancy. I like that Breitling is taking a risk with this new design. Even if I'm not going to buy this watch, I think it's good for a brand to try some new things. It's good for Breitling and it's good for us. And it's clear that with the improved thickness, the ceramic bezel, and the adjustment system, consumers' voices are being heard. So keep providing feedback and bless that Breitling employee who has to wade through YouTube comments. Godspeed and good luck.